I'm back. Well, what have we got today? Well, oh my God, it's the snake. Not that one. This one. Well, here I am. It's not quite a exclusive, but it's not far off. I can tell you that much. I could have had one of these sent to me a couple of weeks ago. But I opted to wait for them to get the other one in so that, yeah, it to be fresh off the press, so to speak. And if you look at that serial number on the screen right now, oh my God, you don't get any more fresh off the press than that. I mean, we're talking like, this is still hot off the press. Now the thing is, like all the others, well, like the other one that I've already looked at in this series, you're just going to say to me, oh, it's one of them 20 watt Marshalls. You know, I can hear you now. The only problem is, I've got to look down there for the model. The model is that it's an SV20HD6-H, and the dash H is for head. Yeah, so an SV20HD6, which isn't quite the same model number as some of them other ones. If you go and check, I'm pretty sure of that. So, what the hell is it? Well, it's similar to the Marshall 20 watt that they released the Studio. It says on Studio down there. Similar to the Mark II. Yeah, the JMP type of thing. Yeah, it's all here. Presence, bass, middle treble, high treble, normal. And we can link things together. Which, by the way, I didn't see any link cable in the box, but don't worry about that. So it's a mini plexi. However, this is the snake job, and I'm telling you now, where you are, you think you can see it and it looks pretty awesome, probably. But when you're down here, oh my God, this is evil. It's like a red snakeskin, blood in it, you know. Like the other one was, you know, the stealth version of the JCM 800. This one is the snake version of the yeah, JMP Mark II, it says there. Yeah, so as always, this is an inside and outside review, and I can't wait to get inside that one. Yeah, to flip it out of the case so we can get a closer look. And then of course we'll talk about it a little while, and then we'll play it just as we did on the Stealth. So I've been waiting for this to arrive from my friends at Fair Deal, Birmingham, or at least that way. Anyway, the details will be in the text below, and you probably see a bit of something on the screen right now about who he is and where they are. And one of the biggest Marshall dealers around, so if you're looking for Marshall gear, yeah, could be the place to look. And you know, like everything, I always pay for everything. That's just life. But anyway, here it is. Let's get a bit further. Let me get the chassis out. Okay, well, it looks to me like you've got the back cover, the normal sort of Marshall style back cover for this era. But then you've got 4 screws underneath to lift the chassis itself out. And that's not a bad thing, making sure everything's held in place. And it's all held in with the machine screws these days as well, as opposed to when you used to have wood screws going into the thing. Well, taking a look at the carcass, you can see it's been covered by G-Mott, whoever he is, and he's done a very good job of it too. Actually, this is still slightly tacky. It really is that new. I don't know if you can see the colours of that better there. I don't know. Anyway, let's put this down and have a look at the important bit. It's the first look at the chassis, and very impressive it is too. Yeah. We'll bring the camera in and do what we normally do and have a quick look at it and see what it's really made of, so to speak. Yeah. Very nice. Well, here we go. I've only just got the chassis on screen. It's quite wide for this particular lens, but I wouldn't worry too much about that. We'll start off at this end and do what we normally do, take a look. This is the power transformer, and this is a TXMA 91084-01. It's got some other numbers on there, MD210-E230V, Main 19, WICO 7, ROSH compliant, quality pass 230. Yeah, more can I say? Not a lot. Not as big as some of these 100 watters, of course. These power transformers and output transformers are always going to be smaller. No problem. I think that's good. Moving along to the main output tubes, power tubes. These are EL34s, just as they were in the original. Strangely, EL34s, some people would have put smaller tubes in there, but they didn't. So there they are. You could theoretically, I guess, get 50 watts out of that, give or take. But in this one you can't. These tubes, as you'll see on the screen right now, are made by JJ. Not my favourite, but those are what Marshall are putting in there at the moment. But they are Marshall branded on the other side. Yeah. Now looking at the preamp tubes, there's one here. Let's take a look at this one. Yeah, this one's an ECC83, as you'd expect. It's a valve. It says here 00049 1219. That's its date. And other than the Marshall logo, there is no brand. So could be anything. Possibly Chinese. But hard to know. Well, let's have a look at this one down this end. And then we won't have to mess around with these tubes so much anymore. This one here, by the way, is the same as that one. Now this one down the end, under its shroud, has got the red text. And this one's a Marshall ECC83, just the same. 00066 this one is. But this one's 0320. So this was actually made in March. And bearing in mind it's only July now. Wow. Let's put it back. It wants to sleep. And that's what it's going to do for a short while. Moving to this little, this dude. This is a output transformer. Again, not very big, but it's not massive output wattage. This is a TXOP 91014-01 MD210-OPT output transformer. MAV 1907, so 0719. ROSH compliant, and its QC pass says here 160. Right, what more can I say? Not much. There's also this surface that we should talk about, which seems to be coated in a sort of rust mode, whatever the material is. Yeah, I don't really care what it is, but it's nice big thick steel, as it usually is on Marshalls, particularly the ones that come from England, like this one does. This is made in England. Yeah, not much else to look at up here, so I'm going to flip it over and we'll take a good look inside before we fall asleep. Wakey wakey, come on. Well, what we've got here is the sort of first overview of what's inside. Mr. Snake, yeah, very nice. And the first thing you'll notice is that the ends of the chassis are missing. Well, that's okay, nothing wrong with that, but you know, on the original amp, so to speak, all this was boxed in. So this is one way of being able to make a sort of cheaper chassis, or chassis, depends where you come from. But by still retaining this thick material. I think this is 1.6 mil or something like that. It's in any case, it's pretty thick chassis material, and it isn't going to bend anytime soon, bearing in mind it's actually held in place with these screws. There's one down here as well that you don't see, but it's there. You've also got captive nuts like this, if you just in general a round thing. Well, there we go. I think we get a pretty good picture of that. Yeah, this way round. So let's take a look from the where the power comes in. And it comes in on these two wires here, just down here. Goes off to the two switches on the front, and you can see those are very substantial switches, not like some of the stuff that I've seen of late, held in with putty or chewing gum or God knows what else. There's none of that here. These are really well mounted. Notice how they're all very well protected too. Yeah, I think what we'll do is we'll zoom in a little bit further. You can see a good overall view of the chassis as it is, but we'll zoom in further as I did before and take a quick look. It's a very similar layout to the 20 watt Stealth that we looked at, but not quite the same. You know how it goes. Yeah. Okay, well, this input section, that's a bit better, isn't it? You can see what you're doing now. Power comes in here through this on-off switch. There's a standby switch, but down there is the little power transformer. And once again, as it was on the previous Stealth amp, you can see that there is only one input. There isn't any multi-input voltages going on here. So if you buy one of these and you're not 230, 240 volts, I'm afraid you're either going to have some sort of device to make it work for you, or of course you're going to change the power transformer. That will cost you more money. It's not a good idea. I don't recommend that. Moving a bit further along to the board, we've got a fuse there, you can see it, and we've got another one just underneath it there. So right from the off there's two fuses. We've got some some rectification going on there. There's little diodes, some more down there. In fact, there's two sets of them, strangely. Yeah, what can I say? Now, the thing is, as you move further down the board, these are not preamp, these are power amp down this section here. In fact, basically from about there backwards, you can see where you can see these big white resistors, these 5 watt 1K resistors, very, very common. See them in most tube amps, not all of them, but most of them. Now some people actually mount these flush on the board. In fact, I saw, don't worry about it for now, we'll talk about it later. I saw a very well-known amp with these mounted actually on the PCB. God knows how that PCB is going to get with a 5 watt resistor strapped to it. I don't think that's a good idea. But there's none of them shenanigans going on here with Marshall, and that's a good thing. Not very big capacitors. Not like I can quote the other tube amps, you know, the 100 watters. I mean, they'd be up here, wouldn't they? There's none of that here. But these are all pretty nice, all well laid out, all fitted well. The cables are all extremely neat. Whoever built it did a pretty good job of that. And you know, you got to move across from this section where the power tubes are, these two here, and you got to move sort of down that end to come back. And I think that's what we'll do. As I said, we've looked up the top here where there's this little bit of rectification. So we're going to go down that end and work our way back. Now then, down this end, we've got these up here, these two here. One of my friends arriving. These two here are input. And you know, you can sort of strap the two together. Well, if you don't, you're going to see it later anyway. But you've got two little boards there that look after the input on the other side of this. Yeah, they come in here. So you've got a few. That one's trying to breed. Keep it apart. You've got a few little components. So this is the preamp side of things. And there's the first preamp tube. That's the one underneath the shroud. And then we sort of move this way steadily into preamp tube number 2. And then across a bit further into this tube over here, if you can just about see that. And I think that's the pi tube. for the power. Oh, by the way, let me just deviate for a second. There's another fuse down there, and that's very similar to what you saw in the Stealth amp. But coming back over here, let's not rush. Notice all the components like resistors are standing off the board. There's a few smaller ones that are on the board. I talked about this exact same thing in the Stealth amp. But as soon as they get to be bigger, they're off the board for some reason. I don't know exactly the reason. I doubt it's the heat, but it could be, who knows. Marshall do, I don't. I'm only here to look at the quality. Yeah, moving further along, we've got one or two bits of components, and we've got this plethora of wire. See it? And it comes out of this multi-socket here, and well, goes into that one and comes out of this one. Up across the front here is the tone stack control knobs. Yeah, you know, the bass, the mid, the treble, and so on and so forth. This is where they connect. And I'll do a good job of it. It's on a tiny little board, as it is on most of these. We'll probably look at it a bit closer in a while. But it's better to have it separate like this than it is to have everything stuck on one board and then have a pile of aggro. I think this is a much better idea. Yeah. You've got one or two other joining cables as well. See them here, some down here, going off in different places, but they're all very neat and they're all finished with these multi-connectors, which I like to see really. Now down the bottom here, it's not so easy to see. You've got this other backboard. You can see it coming along here. And these here are the speaker outs. These things across here. You can just about make them out. Like that one there. And that one there. So there's the outputs. These are the wires off the output transformer. Yeah, you've got this other little board that if something does fail on it, and they've been known to, I'm sure, you could very easily get another board from Marshall. And I know they keep the spares for years. And I did actually want to show you those front tone stack controls. There they are. And they're very similar to the previous Stealth amp. Very similar indeed. And they have these little type of funny volume controls and tone controls. Well, pots. I hardly call them pots. But again, they're on another little board, like I said, and it's all good, that is. It's actually good, that is. Yeah, looking at the board overall, it looks pretty nice, actually, from what I can see. So there's a bit of a quick look inside the chassis of this 20 watt, 20 watt amp, but like a plexi. Rather like a plexi, yeah, that's what they'll have you think. And it probably sounds rather like a plexi too, but we're going to find that out. Yeah, it's going to be cranked up, and we're going to do the business with it. So I'll have to look inside it just before we come back up, and I put it back in the chassis. It all looks very nice to me. I don't know. I like how things have been fastened down as well with this gunge. It's all everywhere, but it's good. Nothing moves, and I mean nothing moves. Yeah, very nice. If you've got any questions, pop them below. But oh, the chassis was actually not the chassis. I'm not talking about the main board. Actually has a date on it of week 17, 2019. So it looks like it's all been coming together over a period of time. Yeah. But don't hold it against anyone, because it looks really good. Very nice, nice controls. What you'd expect, and really, really nice switches, which we're going to cover next. We're going to go to the back and then the front. So let me get my act together. Let me put it back in the case. Then we'll cover the back and front controls. Hold on. Okay, well here we are around the back. Very simple amplifier. And I'm just going to go from this side to that. Doesn't really make much difference. Yeah, there's a serial number. It's an M for Made in England. It's a 2020. It's week 24. I think we're on week 26 or something like that now, or 25. So it's still warm, literally. We've got the loudspeaker connections, all these in red, with a few warnings underneath. I wouldn't worry too much about them. But we can have 116 or 1/8 or 2/16s and 1/4 or 2/8. So it covers most of these sort of scenarios that you might get yourself into when you're out there gigging or lugging stuff around, or this cab for this venue or that one for that, or so on and so forth. You'll know what I mean. Let's move along a bit. Now, to be honest, we're looking at the other half of the amp. It's not that much to look at, is there? Well, we do have a DI out here. You can see that just at the end of the screen there. And that'll have a speaker simulator stuffed in there somewhere, so that it can sound good when you go and record it. Direct, that is. Importantly, on this amp, we've got an FX loop, an on and an off. And I like to see that. You know, the original amp had none of these shenanigans, none of this stuff. But there it is, send and return. There's no volume control on the back here, but don't worry about that either. But it can be switched in and it can be switched out, and from what I gather, when it's switched out, it's completely out. That sounds like a good idea. It's probably a serial one too, because the parallel ones are not so great, are they? This is a input, mains input, and importantly, it's got a fuse underneath in there. It's got a high pot test, which means it's been tested for high power going into it and sparking off and things like that. Well, they have a tester, don't they? But it's made by Marshall. It's Marshall Amplification PLC, Bletchley, Milton Keynes, and the address in England. And it's proudly made in England, which you can't say that for a lot of stuff these days, and certainly can't say it for made in America. Half of them aren't. At least this one is actually made in Milton Keynes. It's got the Japanese on it that one of the viewers pointed out, talks about Yamaha because they're the distributor for Japan, apparently. It's got an apparatus must be earthed, all that sort of stuff, and it's got all these, importantly, it's got these approvals. CE approval, WEEE, I think that's a Roche one. Got a TUV one, not sure what that one is, but they cover this amp really around the world, which is pretty good. And I know for a fact that this will be properly CE approved, unlike many of the imported amps to the UK that are not, they're not quite right. They think they are, but they're not quite where they should be. But why am I surprised? I'm not. And if don't even go there on pedals, oh, you want to see some of them, they're not even marked up at all. So are they legal? Well, they get into the UK, let's put it that way. This one's 230 volts, 50 hertz, input, 230 volt fuse, that one. Fuse 100 to 130, that, because they can put a different transformer in, and I don't know, you get it in your country. And you get it in England or probably Europe if it's like this one, with a different plug. Not much more around the back here, except I hope you like the skin. No, not my skin, the snake skin. Yeah, it's all very, very nice. Let's go round the front. Now there's a shot of it from round the front, sort of full face, if you will. It's got the old-fashioned Marshall logo. Actually, this is a sort of hybrid type where you've got gold right on the front and then white on the back. I'm not sure I've seen one quite the same as that, but there you go, doesn't really matter. It's got this very nice piping in gold as well, all the way around and over the top as well, there. Yes, I wanted to show the front a little bit because this design, not quite at this size, but this design overall, it's a legend in rock. Well, it's a legend in many aspects actually. everybody's seen one. If not this size, the full size. The full size was like an icon. Yeah, and that's how you've got to think of Marshall, like an icon. And this company, what I like about this company, sure they make the some of the amps abroad, Vietnam and places like that. But you know, this company actually goes and makes this amp in England. And how do I know that? Well, I've been there. I've watched them making these sort of amps actually at the factory on the machines. Admittedly, the components come from everywhere, but they do on every amp. But they're actually making these amps right there in Milton Keynes, and that's a very good thing. They don't want to forget doing that anytime soon. So let's have a run across it. I mean, it's you know, it's it's that simple. Let's start at this end. We've got the mains, an on or an off. It's off at the moment. And then where we've normally got a standby, we've got a 3-position switch. We've got a low, a standby and a high. So we can have it on a sort of 5 watts out or something like that. It really is that low. Or we can have it on high at this side, which is around about 20 watts, give or take. Got the indicator for the mains and the rest of it. We've got a presence, a bass, a mid, a treble, a high treble, which is classed as loudness 1, and a normal, which is classed as loudness 2. So high treble is these two, and the normal is those two. And it's very common to jump from there to there and put your power in there. So common. Nearly everybody does that. And it's so that you can balance these two, because in effect, when you look in the PCB, I'll just put a picture up there now for a second or two, you can see there are 2 inputs. And those 2 inputs, this matters. It's more so than what you might think if you've never used one of these. So how normal is it? How regular Marshall is it? Well, it's very, very regular Marshall, even to the extent of having 2 EL34 tubes in there. Admittedly JJ, but they will have been tested, and I know that they've been matched because I saw the matching numbers inside, if you noticed that. So let's just zoom back out a second. There's not much more I can say about that, except I hope you like the snake skin. It's an awesome colour. It's like a sort of wine red with added snake. Well, I hope you like what you saw. I certainly do, and I think that, yeah, the colour's fantastic. I don't know how it's going to come up on there, even in its high resolution. But, yeah, I'll see if I can zoom in a bit. Not on me, but you might see it from there. You might not. Let's go back out a bit. It's a very bright light in here, contrary to what some might think. Now, this amp came from Fair Deal Music, like I said. If you're into Marshall, and you're in the UK in particular, yeah, not a bad place to go and look. And they usually have everything before everybody else. Wish you get people like Anderton's maybe next week or the week after or the week after that, or well, they might get them sometime. But these guys, Fair Deal, yeah, they've always got the product first, and yeah, that's worth remembering. Yeah, you don't want to miss out on one of these, do you? The thing is about this snake version, I'm calling it that. The thing is about the snake version. Listen, this is a very, very limited edition. It's only coming round once. Remember the YJM? Yeah? Remember that? Do you remember the Satriani head? Well, that was around a bit longer, but it was still a sort of limited version. And what about the AFD? Yeah, they're all limited heads, like this one is. And you could say to yourself, well, it doesn't make any difference. The amp's basically the same as the other studio amp. Well, basically, I guess it is. But it's not the same, is it? If you want one of these, you want one of these. You don't want the one with black. Well, if you want the stealth one, you want the stealth one, don't you? You don't want half a job, do you? No, of course you don't. That's how I think too. Now, what about price of these things? I mean, they can cost a pretty penny. Well, in England, I think they're about 760 or 770 pounds, give or take. Don't quote me exactly. Could be a bit more, probably will be. But that's a reasonable price for an amp like this. It's not that expensive, is it? Now, in America, it's going to cost you more, and it'll probably cost a similar price to what the Stealth did when guys checked the Stealth out. And if you want to see the review of the Stealth, it's down there in the text. Definitely worth going and watch. It had a great sound, that did. But this one has a great sound, but of a different style than a JCM 800. This is like a JMP sort of style of amp. Style. So don't come and, hey, you said this, you know. It is what it is. It's very much like a JMP, in my opinion. Oh, your opinion? Well, it matters, but you won't convince me different. I am what I am. So, if we look at this, we've got a decent price. We've got a classic amp that can be low or a bit higher. Well, when it's on 20 watts, it can be actually quite loud. Quite loud. We've got, yeah, everything you'd ever want. I've even got the snake. What about that? The Marshall logo, of course. Well, we've got something else as well. It's a thing, it's called warranty. Now listen, warranty might not matter to you, but I think it does. Because what happens with these sort of amps, and you don't have to quote me on this, but all the guys that are buying amps like this they're not going around all of the arenas. They're probably like me. They've either got a little studio, or they've got a bedroom, or something similar, where that's why they're buying a 20 watt one that can shut down to 5 watts. You know, they can't play too loud. And this accommodates that. But warranty is actually very important. You get a problem on one of these and you've saved up to buy this. Well, listen, you can't necessarily afford to keep lashing out by the minute, can you? Well, you might, but most people can't. And that's one of the things about these amps. If you go and register on the Marshall site, you get a 3-year warranty. And listen, Marshall don't mess about. I could have said something else there. But they don't mess about like some of these other people with warranties and stuff like that. These guys will fix it. They'll fix it or give you another one. Yeah. Well, they won't just give you another one, but they'll give you another one if they can't fix it. So even if you're in America, you're going to get, or you should get, good service from Marshall or their representative. So it's one of the reasons I keep coming back to Marshall. They're such a standard. They sound so great, and they're such a low cost compared to some of the other stuff that I've reviewed. Oh my God. Now I want to talk a few seconds about a different amp. One that I actually paid £1,395 for, and that came from America. It was a Friedman. You've heard of him. Oh, he makes great amps. Well, that's what you're going to tell me, isn't it? But I'm afraid from what I saw, he doesn't make great amps. Or at least the company that he gets to make them doesn't make great amps. Oh, what do you mean he doesn't build them? No, he doesn't. He gets somebody else to make them. And at least on the £1,395 ones, that one was a Jerry Cantrell version. Then in fact I ended up sending back. That's how good it was. And it's not me knocking it, it's their own amp knocking it. Yeah, and that's the concerning thing. There's no such thing as like the quality in this. If I was to show you inside that amp, you would be absolutely shocked. And you know that amp is basically near enough twice the price of this one. And even in America, this one's cheaper than that Friedman Jerry Cantrell. No ifs or buts, I'm pretty sure about that. So, was the Cantrell a great deal? No, it wasn't. It was so great it went back. How many amps have I ever sent back when I've bought an amp? I can tell you, one. That one. I've never sent another amp back. It was that bad. But enough about that. I'm really sort of showing you, or trying to get across to you, the difference between something like this, made in England, and it's made up to a standard, not down to oh, how much can I get for this and how cheap can I make it. Now, some people will disagree with me on this and say, oh yeah, but you know, Friedman make great amps. Well, they do if you're prepared to spend the £2,800 on the real Jerry Cantrell head rather than the cheap converted taco, whatever they call it. I don't know. Anyway, you make your own mind up about that. I don't want to slag him off in particular, but let's put it this way. I'll never buy another Friedman as long as I live, of any kind. This, on the other hand, well, this has been one in a whole series. And I want you to bear that in mind. So the money, the cost of the amp, doesn't necessarily dictate the value in that amp. And by the way, that 3-year warranty, it's faultless. It's absolutely faultless. Oh, and just before I do move on, you did get a speaker cable with it. You got a really decent mains lead with it. Decent one. It's not going to kill you. You got your 3-year extended warranty. There it is. I won't bore you too much with it. You've even got a little, I think, I haven't even opened this. That's how well I know the amp. You got a little manual. It's in multiple languages. Yeah. I won't bore you with it too much. It's got some settings on the back and stuff like that. So, what's not to like? It's all good stuff. Now guys, if you've got any questions about this little amp, just put them below. I'll either know, or I'll find the answer out for you, and we'll go from there. Yeah, I mean that's the idea, isn't it? So you learn about the amp in a real way, as opposed to just a sales video or a fake video, I often call them. Many of them videos have only one thing in mind, and that is purely to sell to you. They have no other, actually no other use. Now they might have far better guitarists than me, but I'm like you probably, just an ordinary guy. I say it in every video, and I think I need to, just to keep reminding people that, hey, these are real videos, they're real reviews, and what you gain from this video actually should be a lot of the truth about this amplifier, and any amplifier indeed, and any piece of equipment that I review, because I've been out and bought it. It hasn't been given to me, nothing like that. Yeah, and that makes a difference, because if you're obliged to say something nice about a product, well, how can it be a real review? How can it? It becomes someone else's words with a mouthpiece that gets, strangely, in some instances, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of subscribers. Or maybe everybody's just gullible. But that's another story. So how would I score this? I know exactly how it sounds. I've been out there with it. Yeah, it sounds awesome. And you can even use the attenuator to drive it that bit more than you normally would. I could use the 2 Notes Captor X because I've got one of them, or I could use the Roland TAE. That's a nice product too. And you could use either, and it will sound good on either of them. And you could DI the amp, or you could put your microphone in the front and do it that way. I often tend to like to do that. Or you could just crank it up in the studio and see what the result is. And by the way, I should be using the 1B12 cab that came with the Stealth. So, although it's a different colour, it doesn't really make much difference. The fact is that it's the same cab as the Stealth one, but without the snake. So, how would I score this thing? How would I just say, oh, it's alright, it's worth a 5 out of 10 or something? No, I wouldn't. I mean, you go and look inside. You had a look. That's the first time I'd seen inside it. What would I expect? I expected what I saw. Not like the Friedman. I expect on the outside what I saw. I expect the sound to be what I got. Everything's exactly as it should be. What can I fault? Nothing. I can't fault anything. It's absolutely perfect. So, as far as I'm concerned, get one if you like the snake. That's the answer. But it's a 10 out of 10 all day. oh, you can't drive it. Yeah, you can. You can take your little pedals, if you like pedals, and stuff them on the front end, or even in the loop you can do that. But to me, yeah, it ticks every box. And it's even got that loop, hasn't it? Which on the original amp it didn't have. So this is like a modern era JMP, yeah, with lower output, so you're not killing anybody through sound vibrations. God knows how Hendrix went on. I remember seeing him at the Isle of Wight there with those 3 cabs. Was it 6 cabs? It was 6 cabs across the back. Oh my God. You can wonder how he got them sounds. Well, I know how he got them, and so do you if you've seen the video of the Isle of Wight. Oh, awesome, awesome. So, it's a 10 out of 10. Is there anything I didn't like? Honestly, nothing. There's nothing I didn't like about this amp. It's even looks like plexi across the front. Everything's perfect. The serialization's great. The thing's safe. It's been through all the approvals and certifications and all the rest of it. It's marked up right. It's absolutely spot on. So I can't say any more about it now. Yeah. Let's talk about what's coming up, and then we can go and have a listen at this. Well, what is coming up? Well, that'd be a great question. I've got a Helix rack that I'm going to be looking at. That's going to be run through first of all, and then installed in a rack, and I'm going to build the rack with including a G90 relay, which seems to be a wireless of choice for a lot of people. What else have I got? Oh, I have got a lot of trouble with my PC out there. It's giving me grief big time. I've spent weeks on it. I don't want formatted, but it looks like it could end up being like that. Yeah, I've got all the bits and pieces kicking around that I don't want to mention at the moment, but yeah, there's a few things still coming. Yeah, you'll get to see them as they come up. But this was one of the better ones. I wanted to get this on there as soon as I could and make it as exclusive as it can be. And it's a sister video to the stealth version. And I hope you like it. Well, that's it for now. There's only one last thing I've got to say before we go and have a look out there. And that is, listen, whatever you do, don't underestimate the coronavirus or COVID-19, because that virus, I've got an itch, that virus, it's still out there. You might say, oh, it won't get me. I'm too young for it to kill me. No, you're not. It's a grievous virus, and it can do a lot of really nasty things, one of which is to clot your blood and either give you a stroke in your brain, make your lungs stop your kidneys, stop your liver, stop this, stop that. Let me put it this way, you don't want it because you could die. A lot of people don't die, but you could. Me? Oh, I'd be gone immediately. So yeah, I'm very careful too, but I always think about viewers, and from some of the stuff I see on YouTube, guys, stay away from the madding crowds. Whatever you do, do what you should do, and let's get rid of this darn virus. It's crippling companies. It could be crippling your job or my job, and then we're all out on the dole, can't afford anything. And the dole, by the way, is where you go if you haven't got a job. Yeah, at least in England. Yeah, so that's it for now. Stay safe. Now let's go see what it sounds like.